Hello, beautiful people. So I feel I need to leave this type of content today. Um, it's one of the talking, type of videos I like to do every now and then. I know I don't post as much as, some people say I should on YouTube to at least become more viewable or something, or, be pushed up in the algorithm. But that's not my concern right now, even though I will eventually get there. But being an American that's living abroad, in right now I'm in the Czech Republic, and I'm gonna take back right now and say that I am here in the Czech Republic in Prague indefinitely, because after traveling many countries, specifically in Europe, I have decided that Prague is a comfortable place for me to move permanently. And with the exception of Poland, was on the list too. Is one of my favorite countries, and it's the culture takes a little bit of different. It's different, so it takes some time as an American to get used to a culture that is so strikingly different. Personality, I mean, than the United States. As an American, we are very expressive people. We, smile more. We kind of smile behind the sadness a lot of the times, but that's our culture too. We're smiling even when there's no reason to smile, and whereas other cultures, and I mean other cultures like specifically Europeans, they tend to be more stoic. Some more stoic than others. Stoic meaning non-emotional, kind of stiff and kind of quiet like. And I feel that. So I feel that with that being said, that Polish people and maybe Czech and maybe Hungarian and maybe Eastern Europeans tend to be a little more stoic than say someone from France or someone from Italy. Definitely not the same in Italy. They're more like Americans, where they are very expressive. But for the most part, where I am now, the culture is different. You're not going to see people, smiling all around, especially during the winter, because, weather makes a difference too. But, aside from all of that, it's a great place to live. I love the people. I love the food. I just love the way I feel when I'm here. And there's a reason why after traveling and living in Vienna, living in Italy, living in France, and different Western European countries, but there's something, I have an affinity for Eastern European countries, and they're mostly called now Central European because, a lot of people still have a negative connotation when someone says Eastern Europe, and they shouldn't, because a lot of the Eastern European countries are better off than a lot of the Western European countries, the ones that's supposed to be the rich European countries, when, a lot of these Eastern European countries, Prague, Czech Republic, which is capital city is Prague, Poland, Warsaw, capital city, those are the places I tend to live, and they're doing amazing economy-wise. My quality of life is just way better than it had been in the last 5 years, my last 5 years in the United States. I'm not saying that I lived in, poor conditions, because I did not. My issue with the United States has a lot to do. I didn't have, wasn't really in poor conditions. My problem with the United States for the last 5 years I was living there before I started traveling, my problem was that the quality of life had not been what I grew up having. I grew up in the 90s, and it was not like the atmosphere it is now. The people are different in the United States now. And a lot of what I see in the United States is that the younger generation who was raised by their parents have been lied to all this time. Whereas when I was growing up, we had history. We knew where, what was what. Meaning, we knew why people were having, if they were protesting, we knew why. We would dig into the history of it. If there was a racial issue, we talked about it. We discussed it. Things like that. Or if it has something to do with, even the marginalization of others, or even knowing how the country is founded, learning more about Native Americans and things like that. We would discuss these, even on TV programs. We used to have shows. One of my favorite shows was in the 80s. It was from the 80s, but it was also shown throughout the 90s through reruns, and that was Golden Girls. And that was, a show of, show about 4 white elderly American women who were living together because it was just easier, to live together and still living alone. And they saved money. But it was so funny. But it was one of the shows, and the reason why I mentioned this show instead of The Jeffersons or Good Times, which were black shows, black American shows, which were amazing also. But this show was more, they addressed issues that, that were important, that was probably emerging at the time. Not probably, they were emerging at the time. And so we had TV shows, excuse me, let me fix this camera a bit. We had TV shows and even movies but specifically more TV shows. I think they really did cover a lot of the issues that was going on in American life. And so we would learn different things. Others would learn about our culture. We would learn about, how they feel about our culture. The reason why I say I don't reverse that and say we would learn about their culture, because America has pushed their whatever so-called culture on us since its inception, since my ancestors were stolen and brought to America to build it. So we were under the colonization. So, we can't say learn your culture because we were living in the culture that they forced upon us. So after, civil rights movement, I think the TV shows and all of that and inclusion started to address these issues and why we were the way we were, why we were the type of people that we were the last to get, but we still fought. But I'm not going to go on a tangent on that. My problem with the United States, the reason why I'm making this video, because it's during this climate right now with this president who is also sparking this issue even more. And I was mentioning the TV shows, the Golden Girls, because they used to address these issues. And then the next day at school, we would talk about them. Why is this racist situation happen? What is the core of it? What can we do about it? We would have critical thinking sessions, and that's not happening now. So my battery died, so I had to restart it. So as I was saying that before, I was rudely cut off by my phone. Yes, critical thinking is not happening anymore in the United States. It's not encouraged, and I'm not going to just put it all on the school system, because it's also the parents. It's their responsibility to encourage, critical thinking. Have them ask questions, and then you ask them, why did you come up with this conclusion? Those types of things used to be fun for me. Growing up, being able to challenge, my parents and then tell them why, and not, have to go off of what a friend said. And that seems to be what the issue is now for me in America. I see that it's just talking points. And I'm addressing younger people, because the older generation, they know what they're doing. They know that they raised their child with these talking points. And now you just see this young generation, specifically 20-year-olds who voted for the first time, or who is finally finding their voice, when they don't really have their own voice. They have their parents' voice. I would listen to a lot of the debates they would have, and let's talk about what the elephant in the room, which is Donald Trump, and why Americans voted for him, and how did this happen. And it's really simple. It may not seem simple, but it is. It all boils down to racism. And because the United States don't talk about history, they don't talk about the problem, they like to hide it. And they've been doing this since its inception. Even when things got a little better when I was growing up, that's because it was being discussed. It stopped being discussed, and then the problem reared its ugly head again. So when the deep type of racism returned, and as I said before, reared its ugly head, that's when we started having the problems we're having today. And this started, for me, I noticed it happening around 2011. That's when I was getting disillusioned. I was working at a company or a corporation, corporate America, and I was considered a director, which made me a boss of certain people. And I started realizing before, I didn't have a problem with being a manager. No one would give me pushback, because I've been in management, being someone's boss or supervisor for many years at that point. But I noticed in 2011, when I had gotten a promotion to a higher position, management position, I was getting a little more pushback than I was used to. And I'm not going to go into the depths of that, because many Black American women know what I'm talking about. And I feel like I don't need to live like that. I don't need to. I don't have to stand for that. If no one's going to fight for me, meaning corporations or your bosses or people where you go to HR, they're not there for workers. They really aren't. They're not there for you. And I realized that. And that's when I said, time to go. So I keep going. I'm all over the place with this. But that was kind of, in a nutshell, kind of why I decided to discover other countries and travel first. But back to the topic at hand, which is the reason why when I did choose a country, I chose an Eastern European country, and I tended to travel more in these countries. So I tend to enjoy myself more, or like I was saying, travel more of the European countries. And I'm going to wrap this up because I don't want it to be too long, because the topic was basically why I choose Eastern European countries over Western European countries. And that reason is because, Eastern European countries have also their struggles. They've had, communism and, all the things that you can, do the research on. I'm not going to give you a European history lesson. That's something for you to do on your own, Americans. No, I'm joking. For those who don't know, but it is typically people from the United States. They don't dig deep on different European countries. And so there's a lot of the Eastern European countries that just got their freedom in 1991, Croatia and all these places like that. And here, the Czech Republic, we used to be, Yugoslavia, all these different places. But they have a struggle, just like, I feel Black Americans, or African American, whichever you choose, because some of us choose to be called African Americans and some like to be called Black Americans. So, whichever one, or Black. So I'm okay with both. But so I kind of identify, because I think we have the same, had the same struggles, and sometimes still have in the U.S. Black Americans, even though they can be the most successful, have the most money, celebrities, or even just regular working, folks with good jobs, but still have a struggle as a Black American. And I think when I traveled to European countries, Eastern European countries, I felt more like a bond, because they had their own struggles. So they would have these discussions about, racial tensions and racial things that's happening in the United States. I felt like they really would listen and they understood, but they would be, surprised, because a lot of times most, other countries think that Americans are all living the same same culture or living the same American dream. And that's the narrative that has been put out there on purpose. Although I don't want to say that all people of color are Black Americans. And I'm speaking for myself in my country. I mean, in my culture, and being raised and being born in America as a Black American or African American. So I'm speaking from my perspective and how I was raised and my community. So in case I get anything in the comments about other cultures that are living in the United States, like Mexican Americans or people who come from Africa later and immigrated to the United States, that's a whole different story, whole different culture. We didn't immigrate. African Americans are not immigrants. They didn't immigrate to the United States. Let's get that clear. They were stolen from Africa and then built America. So please don't get in my comments saying that you can identify as a Mexican American or as someone else who came as an immigrant. Because this is not about that. This is about why I left and why it's a difference for me as a Black American living abroad and being just treated as an American, and then why I prefer living in Eastern European countries, because I think they identify. And when you refuse to learn the truth about your country, you get the administration that you get now. You have the president, Trump. He is totally unfit. We all know that. Even the ones who voted for him knew that, because they chose a felon, a rapist, one of the most vile human beings. They knew this before and still voted for him over someone very qualified who was vice president. It just makes no sense at all until you really know what the real truth is. And I know why, a lot of white Americans don't want to know the truth, because it makes them look and feel bad because their history. So I think I just will continue this conversation with a voiceover showing you more of Prague and the reason why I like living here. And it's a beautiful country. It's has so much to do, the culture, the architecture, as you can see. One important factor here is that I love a place that has good public transportation where you don't really need a car, although there's many cars in the city center, because they do have their share of traffic. But I love that fact that I can just take all types of public transportation. There's tram there. Trams are my favorite. I don't know. I guess because I get to see the city, while I'm on a tram. But they have a very clean metro system. The buses are amazing. And I love that too. And many European countries are this way, the majority of them. But I think Prague is probably, at the top of the list of countries with really, really good transportation. Public transportation. So, I wanted to just kind of mention that. And while you're getting the chance to see some parts of the city, I don't live too far from this area. So that's a good thing, because I'm considered the center, but not in the middle of it all. But I can just get, to everything I need, shopping and the malls and museums and things by transportation, public transportation, 10 minutes or so, not long. So as you can see there's a little traffic, or I can walk, because to me, I think the city is still walkable. Some people may think 25 or 20 minutes is a long walk. It's actually, when you're used to walking in European cities, 20 minutes is not long anymore, because there's so much to see along the walk. Whereas, where I'm from in the United States and California, even if you were walking, there's like really empty spots between your walk. Because everywhere is just not walkable. And here is the apartment. I arrived back at my apartment, and I love this little red door. But I hope you enjoyed this video explaining why I am probably not going to come back to the United States anytime soon.